coming, because he is doing a very good job of getting our name out there. Our Toastmaster this evening is Cody Broussard.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. No guests tonight. So we will go over the agenda. For our grammarian tonight is going to be Mike. Mike, can you give us a quick overview?
Sure. As the grammarian, I will be evaluating each person that gets up and talks for crutch words that they use, as well as, in particular, and as well as other uses of the English language that I find worth noting, and finally, to also take note of uses of the word of the day. And today, the word is fiduciary, which I think would be a great challenge for everybody. And it's defined as involving trust, especially with regard to the relationship between a trustee and a beneficiary. So when I think of fiduciary, I think if you have a financial fiduciary, it's their legal obligation to provide you with consultation that is in your own best interest. So that's how I view it, and if anyone can work that into their speech or into their table topics, then that would be very impressive. So that's our word.
All right, thank you, Mike. Next, we have our timer, and that's going to be Susan.
As timer, I will be taking times, making sure that people don't go too long on their speeches.
Thank you, Susan. Also, Amy's going to be our general evaluator. And for our first evaluator, that's going to be Thomas. And table topics is going to be done live. That wraps up the agenda. So I will now have the honor of introducing our first speaker. First speaker tonight is going to be first and only, we only have one speaker, and that is going to be Maurice Heidelberg. And he is speaking from the Successful Club Series, number 7, with the title of Mentoring. Maurice.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, tonight's speech topic is mentoring. The Greek playwright Sophocles, in his tragedy Antigone, says that it should be man's natural instinct, and I'm paraphrasing, that skills should come naturally and be done correctly by instinct. But in reality, people go astray in performing skills. Therefore, we need someone who is knowledgeable and experienced to teach us skills, and that is where mentoring comes in. In the context of Toastmasters, a mentor-mentee relationship is where the mentee learns communication and leadership skills through an experienced and knowledgeable Toastmaster, preferably one who's done several manual speeches and performed several roles during a club meeting. I will be going through the slides. I won't be presenting every point on the slide, but several of the points I'll be presenting about, and this is about mentoring and mentor-mentee relationship. What is a mentor? A mentor takes personal responsibility and a genuine interest in his mentee. So I wouldn't say it's quite like a parent-child relationship, but the concern should be up there. Because you care about how the mentee progresses and improves in being a communicator and a leader. In the same vein, he serves as a role model, coach, and a confidant. So the mentor will make sure that the mentee progresses in their learning with being a better communicator and a better leader. Offers knowledge, insight, perspective, and wisdom, and helps a mentee become successful. In the context of Toastmasters, the mentee becomes a much better speaker, a better leader, knows the culture of Toastmasters better, knows how a meeting is conducted, and know how each role is performed during a Toastmasters meeting. And not only during a regular Toastmasters meeting, but also the mentee may learn about speech contest, a Toastmasters conference, an officers meeting, or a TLI. So the mentee will learn the program, learn the culture of Toastmasters, learn the roles, learn how to do a speech, including the icebreaker, because it is said that even experienced Toastmasters say that their icebreaker was their toughest speech. Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, the icebreaker is the toughest speech, depending on your confidence level. Because you're not only speaking to a new group of people, but you're speaking to more likely strangers, people you don't know, when you're doing your icebreaker speech. Not only does a mentor teach inexperienced members, but also experienced members. And I have an example that was presented to me last Thursday night at the last Speechcraft session. The division director, Tom Hageman, in his speech to us, talked about maybe 40 or so, almost 40 years ago, when he first joined Toastmasters, he was able to learn over the next few years and gain skills in leadership and communication. But somewhere along the line, he quit for, I guess, several years, and his speech skills deteriorated. So the next time he joined the Toastmasters Club, he had to redevelop his speech skills. So being a mentor, when you teach a mentee about Toastmasters, how to be a better speaker and a better leader, you should also encourage them to keep improving. Because Tom also mentioned that, in so many words, that earning achievements is good, but earning an achievement is not an end. It's just a step toward being better. You can always be better, and especially with the Pathways program, there is no way that a person can capture all the skills that are being presented in the Pathways program. There is a lot to learn. There are a lot of lessons to be learned in the Pathways program that's coming up and being launched tomorrow. So the benefits to mentors is that they learn from their mentees. A new Toastmasters member does not come completely empty or or knowing nothing. There is something that a mentee can bring to the table, even though they come to a Toastmasters Club to learn better communication and better leadership. The mentor learns because each and every one of us are different. So there is something to be learned between both the mentor and the mentee. The mentor relationship also keeps that mentor productive, not sitting idle and letting their skills deteriorate, their leadership skills deteriorate. And of course, a mentor does something for others, not only for the mentee, but for those members observing the mentor and the mentee. And also the mentor receives recognition and gratitude from the mentee, along with an award or an achievement toward an award. But the greatest satisfaction is the mentee developing their skills in speech and leadership. Benefits to clubs. A good mentor relationship, a good mentored club can produce more members to Toastmasters and can keep more members satisfied with their education in Toastmasters. And it will also produce higher member retention. As you already know, most of us already know, there is a relative high turnover rate in the Toastmasters Club. And hopefully, not only because of this presentation, but each and every one of us learning about mentoring, we can produce more members and retain more members. Of course, there's things out of our control, such as business duties, but aside from that, a good mentoring program should help the club to retain more members. There are several qualities, I won't go over every one of them, but the mentor should be available to help their mentee when they need help, or just to give the mentee tips on speeches and leadership. Patient. You have to be patient with the mentee. Again, we all have different skill sets, different personalities, different rates of learning. So being a good mentor requires patience and being sensitive and respectful and flexible and supportive. And another point that Tom brought up last Thursday in his speech to us during the last session of Speechcraft is not everything goes according to plan, and that's where the patience and the sensitivity and the respectfulness will come in for the mentor. It's not like a drill sergeant or a football coach where if the student or player messes up, you don't beat them on the head hard, and that's not the culture of Toastmasters anyway. We are a receptive, patient organization to help speakers, whether they're experienced or inexperienced. It doesn't really matter their experience level. We are patient and provide constructive criticism. And as Lawrence always says, we use the sandwich method. We give the speaker or the mentee something positive that they did, and then something that they can improve on. Not something they did bad or negative, something that they can improve on it, and that's the way you could phrase that. And then followed by more positive feedback. So that's the sandwich method. You start with positive feedback and you end with positive feedback, even though there may be points of improvement that they need to improve on in between. And a good listener is another quality that the mentor should possess. As I saw on a meme several times on the internet, some people, and this is what the mentor should do, listen to learn. Others listen to reply. You should curb your desire for listening to reply. You should listen to learn, just learn about the mentee's shortcomings or mistakes and just help them to improve. And concern for others, that's another quality. And I'm just going to go quickly through the rest of the steps. Naturally, during the first meeting, you sit with a new member, show them the culture of Toastmasters, the roles, the speeches that the mentee would perform, including the icebreaker. And the following meeting that they come, make the mentees aware of resources, and we have plenty of them, some that you pay for and a lot that you don't have to pay for, but there are plenty of resources on toastmasters.org. And as well as helping with speeches and explain responsibilities of roles and responsibilities in each speech project. In each speech project in the Competent Communicator, there are certain points that the mentee or the student should emphasize during the construction of the speech and during the performance of the speech. And you also can tell the mentee how you've improved during your journey in Toastmasters, as well as explain all the duties and all the tasks of Toastmasters. Qualities of mentees, a lot of them are similar to qualities of a mentor. They should be eager to learn, be receptive, be open to new ideas, loyal, and grateful. A mentor/mentee relationship should be finite. It shouldn't last forever. It should last until the mentee is up on their skills enough to be able to mentor someone else. And before I end the speech, I have these sheets available on mentoring, interest survey for the mentor, assignment notice for the mentee, an assignment notice for the mentor, how to manage your clubs, this is the mentor program, and then a certificate for the mentor. So I will leave this up front for anyone here to look at. And with that, I will relinquish the lectern back to the Toastmaster.
Thank you, Maurice, for that detailed explanation of what it means to be a mentor and the guidelines of the Toastmaster organization. I think we all can do a little better about mentoring some of the new members to join. I know I can. It's a good reminder. Next is my favorite portion of the meeting. We're going to do table topics. And for our guests, table topics is an impromptu session. So you'll get up and John will give you a topic and you'll speak for a minute or so. You don't have to do this as a guest, but if you feel the urge and you see people go, feel free to volunteer. All right, I will now relinquish the lecture to our Toastmaster, John. John.
Mr. Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests. I have been given the opportunity to provide table topics tonight. I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to split it up into 4 questions this time. What I'm going to do is give a little bit of background, provide the question, and then allow people to provide the opportunity to volunteer. 1,241,000, excuse me, 1,241,095,890 cups of coffee are consumed every single day worldwide. So it is thought, nobody knows for sure, where coffee began. It is believed, perhaps, a 9th century Ethiopian goat herder by the name of Kaldi, discovered coffee when he noticed how excited his goats became after eating the beans from a coffee plant. Maybe so, maybe not. My first question is, who do you say discovered coffee and the motivation behind it? Feel free to speculate. Volunteers, please. Yes.
Hello, Toastmasters, honored guests. I don't drink coffee, so my speculation is completely objective. However, I did live in Brazil, and Brazilians, they believe they created everything. So I'm going to go with that as the explanation. But in Brazil, they've been growing coffee for as far back as anyone can remember. And they drink it, and they would have discovered this because if you've met a Brazilian, they are energetic people, very expressive. They live life to its fullest, which means they like to sleep very little. And the few interactions I had with them into the late night, I, the young, strapping American who ran cross country, lifted weights, and was like, I had energy, was ready to crash about 3 hours before they were even thinking about it. So I'm going to say it was actually invented and discovered in Brazil because they wanted a way to enjoy more of life, which meant sleeping less. Mr. Toastmasters.
Thank you. Good job. The second question is around what? Money? Fame? To be table topics master for the evening. What, right now, at this very moment, do you want most? Yes.
Fellow Mr. Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. This is a very interesting question because in reality, we all want so many things. How can we decide what do I want most? Do I want to have happiness? Do I want to have another cup of coffee? Do I want to be in a situation where I have no fiduciary responsibilities? There are many things in life that people want. So what do I want most at this moment? Mr. Table Topic Master, I think what I want the most is to be able to finish my speech.
The next question revolves around why. Some say rock erosion is carried down rivers and streams and collects in the ocean. Estimates are that if all the salt were collected out of the ocean and sprinkled across all of the land worldwide, it would be 500 feet thick over the land. According to Greek mythology, for whatever this means, the Atlantic Ocean is named after the Greek god Atlantis. Who knew? More mythology, Agestia drank the entire ocean to expose hiding demons. When the demons were exposed, they killed the demons, and Agastra spit the ocean back out to fill it up, and it became salty. Why is the ocean salty?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guest, why is the ocean so salty? I don't have a clue. Don't really care either. I think a better question is, why do the fish in the salty ocean feel they have a fiduciary responsibility to not bite on our hooks when we're fishing? Can anybody answer me that? Why must a shark feel its fiduciary responsibility to eat everything in the ocean, including the salt? Why do whales feel like they have the fiduciary responsibility to just swallow up everything that they run across? Which begs the question, why is there so much salt in the ocean with all of this consumption happening underneath the surface of the water? Why? Do you know? Do you know? Because I sure in the world don't know. Mr. Toastmaster.
And the last question has to do with where. In psychology, happiness is a mental or emotional state of well-being which can be defined by, among others, positive or pleasant emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. Where is happiness? Anyone?
I've been asked a question that I feel most people spend their entire life searching for. Why do we do anything? It's a feeling of accomplishment, joy, that kind of feel good, internal feeling, right? The feeling of happiness. It's, I think, what drives a lot of people. And the question that I've been asked is where is it at? And what is it? I think happiness can only be discovered through someone's lifelong journey, right? You think you want to do this, or you think this will make you happy, or this person will make you happy, but until you take the steps and move along towards that, thing you want, or that person you want to meet, or the person you spend time with, you'll never know if that's going to make you happy. So, through my journey of things, I find a lot of it's just time with people, and the less you concentrate on the materialistic things of the world, and the more you can use your wealth or whatever to buy time to spend with your loved ones and friends. I think that is your best opportunity for finding some joy, but that's my opinion on where happiness is. Mr. Hilltoppers.
So I will now, relinquish the lectern back to our Toastmaster.
Tabletops, I like the kind of warning shot you gave us, and it made it actually a little harder for me to volunteer, because I knew the question was, I started thinking about it, and I was like, I can't think of it. I kind of like just getting up here with no idea, but thanks for that. It's a good table topics. Now we'll move on to the evaluation portion of the meeting. Our general evaluator for tonight is Ewing.
Hello, Toastmaster and other guests. Today, when the meeting is going to be always great. It's the last time I came here. I very like this club. It's a great club, and I meet a lot of great people. So I will miss all of you. And so far, today's meeting we start on time. And everything, and the the speech is great. And I really like today's table topic. It's very unique way. So, okay, so first we have only one evaluator today. So our president, current president, Thomas. So evaluate Maurice.
So Maurice's speech on mentoring, he did use slides to help us all out. That was very helpful because he was covering a lot of material in not a lot of time. And so having some things that he's going to be talking about on display makes it a little bit easier for us all to follow as he covers things very quickly. So I thought that was really good. I did like that he started off with a quote from a guy that's been dead so long that I can't remember his name. Socrates? No, Sophocles.
Right.
That's it. Sophocles. And my wife studied him because she's a history person. So she knows who he is, but I have no clue. But that was a really neat quote that he started with. And I like how he moved from that quote about guiding ourselves to develop skills and how that should be our natural inclination to how that really generally isn't our natural and what we normally do. And so having a mentor helps us to achieve that. I thought that was a really great transition from a grab you type intro into the topic that you were presenting tonight. You had some vocal variety, but the one thing I would say about the vocal variety is for the first 5 to 6 minutes, it was really good. But then you started falling into a rhythm on it. And it just started becoming kind of like you chanting through your ideas. And so it went from being something that was keeping our attention and putting emphasis on things to just a way to get through the speech. And so maybe paying attention to that in the future would be a good thing. But you did have some really good vocal variety right there at the beginning. You did use stories and anecdotes so that we all could relate, because I'm sure not everybody here has been in a mentor-mentee relationship on either side. So having those stories to help us relate to it from a perspective that we may not have experienced was really, I thought, was helpful. The only major thing I could say that you could have done better was it seemed when you got to the end you were really rushed, so you could have paced the overall material better, so you weren't quite so rushed at the end, and you would have had more time to address those things. I also really liked the way you tied mentors and mentees, not just through the relationship that they have with each other, but how they have these similar characteristics to be able to succeed. Then this is my evaluation of the speech. This is that.
Next is memory.
Oh, yes. Maurice's speech was 15:24. Thomas's, what did you do?
Table topics? That was my first thing.
Okay. Thomas, you were 129. Lawrence, 58 seconds. David, 113. Cody, 123. Yu Yang, 1 minute. Oh, and Thomas, your evaluation was 2:35.
Thank you. Remember?
For the grammarian report, we did quite well. Got a few opportunities for improvement, as is my fiduciary responsibility. I thought David did a great job using fiduciary twice in very creative ways. No other comments on David's. Lawrence also used fiduciary once, and no comment on his table topics. I caught Cody saying kind of twice, and I've caught Thomas once in table topics and then once in evaluations. First saying like and then kind of like. When I was introducing the grammarian's role, I said at least twice. And then Maurice was pretty fantastic for 15, 16 minutes, but I caught one so. And other than that, it was a pretty pristine report. So, yeah.
Thank you. So I give back to the.
Yeah.
You ready for the general evaluation, Thomas, for the detailed evaluation of Maurice's speech? Now we will have the educational overview, which will be led by Lawrence Crompton. This is going to be pathways. This is going to be pathways for our guests. Pathways is a new program we're running that'll guide the speeches.
Okay, I guess that I have to go to the unknown. How do I get to the unknown? Get to the unknown. Well, while he's doing that, I would like to make one quick statement before I start my program here, because I have had the pleasure of being here and seeing the growth of Ewing. And seeing as today is her final day in our program, I thought that it would be appropriate for me to just say something nice about her. I have been here for, I believe, as long as she has been in this club. I think she came from another club previously, if I'm not mistaken. But when she first came, she had a hard time coming up and speaking, or it seemed to me that she was not as comfortable, in part because English is her second language. But she has always been a fantastic timer. Right from the very beginning, almost every meeting, I'll be the timer. But I really have seen a tremendous growth in her confidence, which is, it doesn't matter how good her speaking is. Her confidence has really built up to the point where she can get up here and present things knowing that she's going to make mistakes in the English language. And so was really heartwarming for me to be able to watch this growth in her. And I really appreciate it. We are really going to miss you when you're gone. So you have to find some time to come back for vacation and say hello. Okay? Now, when we're talking, let me get into my educational program here. When we're talking about the program with I don't know if I can get this to move at all. No, I guess that doesn't move that direction. It's over that way as far as it goes. Okay, when we're talking about pathways, it's going to launch tomorrow in this region. So all of you will be able to get into pathways and start into a new and exciting program. Now, there have been many comments, both pro and con, on pathways from groups that have opened it, but almost overwhelmingly they have been good comments. There are a few people who don't like it, and I've met some people in our region that have looked at it and say, well, you know, what's wrong with what we got? Well, we're moving into a new world. So what I want to do is I want to give us a little bit of an overview of how to get into pathways and start your new adventure. So when you get into Toastmasters, the first thing you have to do is log in. I've already done that, so we're past that point. Then you're going to come over here to the pathways and you're going to open that. Now, when you go in here, you have different things that you can do. But I think that the first thing you're going to want to do is to choose a path. So that means that you're going to come over here and you're going to click on the Choose a Path program. And this is going to bring you to this page. All right, and this page gives you an opportunity. You can go straight into choosing your path. You can go into base camp if you already have a path. You can go in, because I'm a pathways guide, it says go in as pathways guide. But when you actually have a path picked out, that's what's going to be here. You're going to have an opportunity at this point to go straight into whatever path you have chosen. And now this is the navigator. The navigator is the book basically the guidebook for the entire Pathways program. So if you go into the navigator, then what you're going to get is the navigator book. It's going to come up on Adobe Flash. Let's skip that. Okay? So that's going to come up. Now, as I mentioned when I introduced the Pathways program, you're going to have to allow this web page to pop up. So you're going to have to disable your pop-up blocker for this web page. You don't necessarily need to disable it from your entire computer. Okay, you can go in and do it per page. Now, I'm not going to go and tell you how to do that because different computers, operating systems may have different methods, and so I'm not going to do it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to continue to path selection. And I hope this works, yes. Okay, now, when you come into this, it gives you the opportunity to go in and choose what you want to do. Now, you have two options here. You can go into Basecamp, which means where you're doing your path online. That means when you open up your path, you're going to get everything online. You can print up what you want to print up. If you don't need something printed up, you don't have to. Also, there are some more options available if you do your path through the Basecamp. The other option is to purchase printed material. That'll cost you an extra $20 on whatever path it is you want to be on. Now, then one of the options is to take your assessment. Okay, and this is the only option open to us at the moment. Actually, $25, I'm sorry, not $20 for the new. Okay, so take the assessment and you're going to get this. Now, the assessment is basically going to try to help you to line up what is the best path for your personal program. What is it you want to do? Now, as you can see here, you have different things that people might be in Toastmasters to try to achieve. So if you want to improve your leadership abilities, well, you can go in here and check leadership. Okay, you're going to check leadership. Okay, say maybe you have an issue with time management, so you want to pick that too. And then maybe another part of your leadership responsibility would be motivating others. Well, if you do those things, then that's going to be what it's going to focus on. And then you're going to go through and you're going to answer questions. Which one is the most important to you? So we'll just pick one randomly, maybe motivate leadership. Okay, you're going to want to be a good leader. All right, oops, I hit the back button. All right, so then, now it starts asking you a bunch of questions. I'm not going to go through those. I'm just going to quickly hit them and move on. Okay, so it's just going to go through and give you a bunch of questions, give you the opportunity to answer all those questions. Once you get done with all those questions, it's going to take you in and give you an opportunity, come on you, give you an opportunity to pick your path. This is not working very well. Oh, come on, you. I'm sorry, folks, my slowness here. But as you can see, it's really not going to take you a whole lot of time to go through this.
This assessment.
If I had thought about it, I could have probably done this a little earlier and come up with.
I'm flexible. That was the last question.
All right, there we go. Now, what's going to happen now is that it's going to tell me these are the 3 paths that are most likely going to get me to my goal. Now, this path here, dynamic leadership, is the one that is the most likely going to get me to whatever goals I am trying to achieve based on the information I put in there. Now, once I get to there, I may decide I don't want to do any of those. Well, then, very simply, I can go in here and get these additional paths, all right? And it shows me all the rest of the paths. So I can choose any one of these paths that I want, and that's going to give me the whatever it is I want. So although it recommends 3 paths that may be guiding you towards where you want to go, it highly recommends one of those 3. But if you decide you don't want any of those, you can come in here. For instance, maybe you just decide, hey, for now all I'm going to do is presentation mastery. Well, it goes in here and it tells you, well, this path is going to help you build skills to do whatever it is, whatever path you do. So then that's going to, so by doing that, you are going to have your first path. And then you can get started on it. And all of your paths have videos. They have examples of what you can do. It goes through, it gives you a very comprehensive evaluation of that program. So when you get a speech, it tells you what the speech is about, and then it gives you prompts to help you to develop that speech. What is it you want to say? What are the main points of that particular subject? How do you want to present it? How are you going to open it? How are you going to close it? And what are you going to put in the body? And it goes through and helps you to develop that. And again, with the many, many, many videos that are available in this program, it is really a valuable, valuable thing. Okay, so let me go back to base camp here. All right, now, let me change where I am, just for the real quick experience here. There is a section in your base camp. Once you get in and you start your path, this is where you're going to be in base camp. Now, if you go in here to navigating base camp, what's going to happen? You have all these things. Now, if you go into any one of these, explore, work in my projects. Let's work in my projects. Okay, now it shows you here a whole list of things that you can do. If you pick any one of these, it gives you the opportunity to go in and look at videos and other training material that will guide you through that particular part of the program that you want to do. So that's going to give you a basic idea of how to get into the beginning of pathways. I am still going to be available to help you if you need it. Also, the upcoming president will also be able to help you. I'm hoping that next year, in June, when we start our next program, that I will be the VP of Education. So again, I will be here to work with everyone and make sure to get you as best as possible and as quickly as possible into the Pathways program. And I think that I now will...
Questions?
Yes, okay, if there's any questions.
What is the typical length of time for a path?
That is just like the typical time for a CC. It depends on you. I have seen that 2 years ago, the first clubs started into the Pathways program. There are already distinguished Toastmasters from the Pathways program 2 years later. So that gives you some idea of how fast it can be done. You have to complete 2 full paths and do a few other things in order to become a DTM in Pathways. So you could say they probably were able to get one done in a year, 1 path in a year. But again, that will also depend on what path you're in. Some of the paths have more responsibilities. If you're in the presentation mastery, it's mostly presentations. So if you can get your club to let you give a presentation every week, in 3 months, you could probably be done with that whole path. But again, it depends on your club, it depends on which path you're on. But again, like I say, there are some clubs that have finished in 2 years.
Can you do 2 paths at a time?
Yes, you can. You can do as many paths as you want.
I'm done with questions. You can go now.
All right, are there any more questions? Mr. Toaster.
Thank you, Lawrence, for the educational overview. Since I am now the temporary VP of Education, go over the roles. Any volunteers for upcoming meeting? Anybody?
General evaluator.
Okay. Anybody with
I'll be in Birmingham.
Toastmaster speech?
I can give a speech.
You can just speak.
I can still give it through competent
Yes.
communicator. And
Yeah.
Or you
You
could also
can.
do that. Either or.
I'll take a look at Pathways. And
Yes.
I'll take a look
You're-
at what
you're,
I have here.
Yes, you are capable of working both paths at the same time for the next 2 years.
Okay.
After that, you're only going to have Pathways.
Okay.
But for the next 2 years, you can work both paths at the same time. Which is what I'm going to be doing until I get my TPM.
I think I'll give my icebreaker speech.
Okay.
Oh, awesome, good. We love icebreakers.
I'll be a timer.
Anybody else?
Are you gonna be able to give that speech you couldn't do this week?
I don't think I'm gonna switch to that one.
I think we should have a dedicated meeting where everybody does a icebreaker.
Pathways.
Yeah, and then if we do that, then because everybody's breaking ice, we'll have enough ice, we can have margaritas while we're doing it.
Can I ask a question about icebreakers under the new curriculum?
Yes.
Is there anything significantly different between the old curriculum icebreaker and the new curriculum icebreaker? I mean, it's form?
Not a whole lot. The only real difference between the two is that in the old system, the icebreaker is very much generic. Whereas in the new system, it's mostly generic, but it does have one little section where it's it says, you do an assessment prior to doing it, and it says how is the icebreaker going to highlight whatever that particular path is. So if you were in a leadership path, it's gonna prompt you to try to include some idea of leadership into your path, but again, you can get up and say, I am who I am, and I was brought up this way, and I'm, I love it here, and whatever, and thank you very much, you're done. It's still an icebreaker. It's the first speech. You do what you can. But that's what they try to do. They try to incorporate everything in the path to that path. So the icebreaker also gets put into that position.
All right, that's enough, and then I'll just assign people to the roles that aren't filled yet. So I'll now relinquish the lectern back to our president. Rather, here we go.
Okay. So one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning, we will take a vote on this next week, because the next week is Memorial Day, if I remember right, if I've counted the weeks right. Maybe it was
2 weeks from today.
So we will be voting either next week or the next week on whether we will meet on Memorial Day. On holidays, we generally meet if there's enough interest. If there's not enough interest, everybody wants to do a cookout somewhere, we make it a point to not make you feel like you have to choose between your cookout at your neighbor's house and Toastmasters here, if we don't have enough interest. I'm fine with us doing a cookout for Toastmasters, but that's all up to you guys. So just think about that over the next week. We'll talk about it as part of our business next week. There are no awards this evening. So with that, we are adjourned.